Good to go, Linda. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Aurora's Committee of Adjustment meeting. I'll start by introducing the committee members and staff. I'm your committee chair. My name is Grace Marsh, and the remaining members with me tonight are Tom Plamondon, the vice chair, Mr. Roy Harrington, Mr. David Mango. Our secretary-treasurer tonight is Justin Leung. The planner with us is Marty Rokos, and our council committee secretary is Linda Batos. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available on the desk at the front. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions of tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form. The owners and the agents will automatically be notified. For each application that will be considered tonight, this is the process we'll follow. I will briefly outline the purpose of the application, and then the applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, it's not required. It's the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information that we've received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I'll invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and sign the corresponding request for notice form on the table at the front. After completing the form, please hand it to our secretary-treasurer. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentation shall be made. Please ensure that all of your questions or comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or comments should the committee feel that's appropriate. So we'll begin with tonight's meeting, and I'll ask the committee if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest.
None for me.
Thank you. Seeing none, I'll ask for an approval of our agenda tonight.
Also moved.
Moved.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor? That carries. We have our minutes of our last meeting in front of us. Could I have a motion on those, please? David? Thank you.
Again, I'll second.
All right. Any errors or omissions or comments? Seeing none? Yes?
No, just didn't really get a chance to go through them. Unfortunately, I just got them.
Yeah, yeah. Me too. I did get a chance to read them. They looked okay. If you have anything later, just let us know and we can amend it. But for now, all in favor? That's approved. Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. I'm missing my agenda. Okay, so our first application before us tonight is minor variance application MV 2017-25 LAC Management Incorporated, 218 Earl Stewart Drive, Units 6 to 8. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 6000-17 as amended, respecting to allow an increase in combined floor area for office use other than a doctor or drugless practitioner in a multi-premises building. The property in question is in a business park exception E-BP 278 zone. Section 27.278.1.2 of the zoning bylaw states that combined floor area of offices not exceeding 30% of the total floor area of the building. The applicant is proposing office use as part of a consultation business which has a combined floor area of 34.0%, thus requiring a variance of 4. Planning services, no objections. Building services, no comments. Infrastructure and Environmental, no objections. Parks, Rec and Culture, no comments. Central York Fire Service, no comments received. Electra Utilities and the Region of York had no objections. Applicant agent? Push your button there, please. Yep.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, planning staff. My name is David Choi. I'm the architect and agent acting on behalf of my client, Kennard Child and Family Services. I am joined this evening with our clients, Stephen, Ann, and Joe. They're more than happy to answer any questions relating to their specific office use. So I'll do my best to deal with just the planning and architectural side of our application. So I would like to show you the site plan, if I may. So the site consists of two buildings, 212 and 218 Earl Stewart. So 218, which is this one here, is our subject site. So as the Madam Chair quickly mentioned, there's 8 units. Within each of the 8 units, there's about 300 square meters. Under the M6 zoning, we're allowed to have 30% of the overall building for office use. So our clients have units 6, 7, and 8. So the areas that we're requesting, so between the 3 units, there's 300 square meters. So if you take the 8 units in the building times with 300 square meters, we're allowed 2,400 square meters times 0.3% of office, we're allowed 720 square meters. We are requesting an office space of 796 versus the 720, which I believe is a little bit under 34. It's about 33.16%. As far as the floor plan, zoom in down a little bit, please. Okay, thank you. So we actually have a building permit that we are actually under construction for. What we are requesting today is really this additional multi-purpose space, which was presently under the present building permit. It's being used as warehouse, which actually the landlord is using for himself. So this multi-purpose space, which is we're calling multi-purpose room 1 and 2, is really what's triggering this additional 3.16%. I'm happy to advise you that there are no parking ramifications for the multi-purpose room because it will only be used for meetings at convenient times. So there's actually going to be no increase in parking at all for the request of the 2 multi-purpose rooms that are currently under warehouse for the current building permit submission. So that is our 3.16% that we are requesting. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to respond to them.
Excellent, thanks very much. I'll just look to the committee to see if they have any questions for you. Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, are there any members of the public who would like to address this application to the committee? Yeah. And did the applicants wish to add anything at this time, or your clients not necessarily? Okay, sorry. Now I'll look to the committee for any questions or comments. Tom, go ahead. Thanks for keeping me straight and narrow.
You usually keep us in line, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of questions, and it may require your client to come forward, but if you could put the site plan back up there, that'd be helpful too. And I'll start off by asking the question, so does the current building permit, or maybe even the floor plan, I'm sorry. Thank you. Does the current building permit then apply to those 2 multi-purpose rooms, or is that something I maybe should be asking staff, or is that something that has to come following either, following approval, if we so do? would there be a requirement then for a revised building permit? I mean, you can answer that if you wish.
Push your button, please.
I can. So currently the exact outline of the two multi-purposes room, right now the permit that you have in hand, that shows a warehouse space. So the warehouse is actually a separate tenant, which requires a 1-hour fire separation. Because it's now going to be used by Canark themselves, there is no fire separation requirement, so the walls will be unrated. So there has to be a change to the building permit.
And if it's warehouse space, are there loading docks or?
There are. We're actually, it's a good question, because if you look really closely here, there's 2 overhead doors. There's one here and there's one here, which we are actually putting gypsum on the inside face. So as far as the site plan agreement, the exterior look, we're maintaining it. Okay. No disrespect to my clients, but the landlord also wishes to keep the overhead doors just in case in the future, let's say Canark decides to go somewhere else, he has the flexibility to also maintain the warehouse use, because it is a 2-story warehouse space at the rear.
Okay. Thank you for that. And you mentioned that there are no parking implications, but has the municipality looked at these 2 proposed changes to the building and done a parking assessment in terms of its impact?
Perhaps we'll maybe direct that to staff. Marty, you'd like to?
Do we know?
Through the chair, when this site plan was first submitted in 2012, there was a parking analysis done, and that parking analysis determined that there would be a peak demand of 57 parking spaces on both properties, 212 and 218 Earl Stewart. That compares to an actual supply of 92 parking spaces that are on the 2 sites now. So which with each variance that has come through for these 2 properties, we have looked at the parking, and we have determined that there's no issue with parking with each of these variances, including this one.
Thank you very much. Todd?
And I guess looking at, it's very difficult, by the way, to when we get these applications, sometimes the sketches that we see aren't quite as clear and crisp as this. I was going to ask the applicant to give us an idea as to what the nature of the business itself is.
Stephen, would you mind? Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ann Angieski, and I'm the business manager at Canark Child and Family Services. We are a children's mental health organization. We provide a full range of assessment and treatment services, including individual, family, group counseling, parenting groups. We've been in Aurora for the past 10 years. We've outgrown the space that we're in right now, and this is our new opportunity.
Okay.
I have some brochures about Canark if you are interested.
Sure. Leave those with the secretary, and we'll get them. Thank you. I'm aware of your organization, but if some of the others are not, that's great.
Thank you for that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Go down this way. Go ahead. Push your button.
Question. You mentioned you've been in Aurora for 10 years. Where are you located right now?
We're at 24 Orchard Heights Boulevard, St. Andrews.
Orchard Heights Boulevard?
Yeah.
St. Andrews Village?
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We're in the old Byway store.
Okay. Okay. Then if there's no further questions or comments, I'll look for a motion on the application.
Through the chair, I'll move that minor variance application MV 2017-25 be approved. I don't believe there are any conditions, so as submitted.
Seconder?
I second, yes.
Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next application tonight is minor variance application 1857308 Ontario Inc. 444-446 Holland View Trail Unit A3. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 6000-17 as amended, respecting to allow a fitness center as a permitted use. The property in question is in a community commercial exception C4 291. Section 24.291.1 of the zoning bylaw does not include fitness center as a permitted use. The applicant is proposing fitness center as a permitted use for Unit A3 of the commercial plaza, thus requiring a variance from the provisions of the bylaw. Planning Services had no objections, but it's subject to a restriction. Building Services, no comments. Infrastructure and Environmental, no concerns. Parks, Rec and Cultural, no comments. Central York Fire, no comments received. Electric Utilities and the Region of York, no objections. And do we have the applicant or agent on this one, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, staff, and members of the public. My name is Dan Stone. I'm a professional planner with Thorstone Consulting, and I'm here tonight representing the applicant on the application. Here with me tonight is also Ryan Mintz. Ryan manages the leasing operations for the building owner, and he's here to answer any questions with respect to the specific use. I don't have much of a presentation. I think the application is pretty straightforward. The Committee of Adjustment does have the ability under the powers granted under the Planning Act to provide for consideration of use. We do have an empty unit within the plaza that is principally occupied by the Shoppers Drug Mart store, and a tenant is ready to move in and start up a new business in that empty unit. The tenant is a company that does fitness training, a rather boutique fitness training outfit. I do have an outline of the business operation. It is a franchise, but they're ready to move in and start up the new business. Approaching staff back in June of this year, became aware that the use specifically was considered and interpreted by staff to be a fitness center, and that is one of the specific uses which is not permitted on the bylaw for the property. The property does enjoy a site-specific commercial zone that provides for a very wide range of commercial uses. A fitness center simply is not one of those. Strangely enough, your official plan does permit a fitness center in the designation. So I think it's pretty straightforward. It requires the committee's positive consideration of the use as being appropriate for the site. We have reviewed the staff reports. We note that staff is supporting the application. In terms of parking, there are no concerns in terms of the site's ability to handle the use. There's actually a surplus of site parking on this particular property, and yeah, we're looking forward to a positive decision so we can get a new business started here in the town of Aurora.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And your client, being the leasing agent, is aware that this, if it is approved, will be restricted to Suite A3 only and not beyond that. That's yes. Great. Thanks very much. So I'll ask if there's any members of the public who would like to comment on this application. Thank you. Seeing none, then I'll look to the committee for any comments or questions. David?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Through the chair, I think you mentioned the specific type of fitness. I didn't really catch it. Can you tell us what it is specifically?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. What I can do is, I did. This comes off the business operations website. It is a franchise. They do operate a number of businesses down in the city, and they're expanding at this time. But it's basically an Australian outfit which is focusing on, the business is called F45 Training. It's focused on a 45-minute workout that is intended to provide the best outcome in terms of fitness training.
Okay.
we try this? You can. It's a very brief blurb on the company. Oops. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So, do you know how many rooms, washrooms are in that building at the moment?
In that particular unit?
Yes.
I might have to refer to Mr. Mintz as to whether or not the number of washrooms in the unit.
That are existing?
Yes.
I would think.
I'll get you to come forward to the mic, please, so we can just record it properly. Thank you.
Forgive me, I have not been in the space for some time. I would
Yeah.
tell you there's definitely, for sure, the one that's obviously required by code. There would be a maximum of 2 existing. I brought a photo. I'm not sure if that would be any assistance, but it's really just an open space, very different than the LA Fitness, for example, that's next door, and obviously substantially larger. It's not all the huge, massive weights and equipment. It's really just a training facility.
Okay, so you expect to have enough washrooms to cater for all the number of people going there?
So as the landlord, I haven't seen, the tenant hasn't provided drawings yet because we've done a conditional deal. So subsequent to hopefully this approval, we will review and give our landlord consent to them applying for whatever permit they require to produce this facility.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Roy, any questions?
I'm okay.
Okay, Tom?
I can just get you to throw that photo back up. I was in the middle of counting bodies.
Yeah, well, here's an easier one. It's empty.
I like this one. And that's going to speak to my question because
You want to show that one?
you can throw the other one up there if you want. Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's what, a half hour before it opens?
I pulled the same
Okay.
photos you could.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at that, I got to about 28 and I stopped. And I was reading notes that staff prepared, and under the general intent of the zoning bylaw item 2 in the report, it mentions that the subject lands were developed in conjunction with 212 Earl Stewart Drive, and they function as a single site. There was the parking requirement was reduced from a minimum of 56 to 46 parking spaces by minor variance D13-28A-12, and there was a parking study that was prepared by Cole Engineering identifying peak demand of 57 for both. So that's 57 total spaces for both 212 and 218 Earl.
Through the
I think you're on the wrong.
Yeah.
I was having a bad day.
You know, thank you, Justin. I forgot to flip the page, and that would be much better. So I'll move right along and just say thank you. Looks great.
All righty. Sorry. We all have
Who
day
picked that
jobs,
up?
and I know these evenings. David did first. Actually.
David?
David
Thank
realized
you, David.
you were reading the wrong report. Okay. If there's no further questions, comments, or wrong reports being read, I'll look for a motion on this. Sorry, I could resist. Roy?
also move, Madam Chair, with the,
I better second it.
there is one condition.
One restriction, actually. It's a restriction of record, so moved and seconded with the restriction. All in favor? That carries. Only in Aurora, guys.
Thank you.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah, that's right. Thanks very much. I know. I'm looking. Okay, moving along. Minor variance application, Kashobin, 5 Gilbert Drive, MV 2017-27A and B. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of zoning bylaw number 6017 as amended, respecting to allow an increase in height for an accessory structure to construct an addition to an existing accessory structure. The property in question is in an estate residential ER zone. Section 4.1.2b of the zoning bylaw allows a maximum height of 4.5 meters for an accessory structure where the lot area is more than 460 meters squared. The applicant is proposing to construct an addition to the existing accessory structure, which has a height of 5.8 meters, thus requiring a variance of 1.3 meters. Application 27B is seeking relief from the same bylaw to allow an increase in impervious surface area in Category 1 landform conservation area to construct the addition to the existing accessory structure. The bylaw states that the net developable area of the site that has an impervious surfaces shall not exceed 15% of the total site area for a property within a Category 1 landform conservation area. The applicant is proposing an impervious area of 20%, thus requiring a variance of 5%. Planning had no objections, building had no comments, infrastructure and environmental had no objections but have laid out a condition. Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services had no objections, but is also subject to conditions. Central York Fire Services, no comments received. Electra Utilities in the region of York had no objections. And the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority had no objections, but they also had a condition. Do we have an applicant or agent for this one?
Good evening, Madam Chair and others. My name is David Fox. I'm in on behalf for Ario Koshbin. He was going to make it here this evening, but was unable due to a family issue that he had to deal with. I don't have a presentation on this. I'm going to allow the paperwork to speak for itself. I do have a couple of notes based on some of the conditions that have been brought forward. We did have a site inspection today from the town. Primarily, it seems that most of them have to do with the wooded area, which is not going to be touched. There are no trees to come down. We will have an arborist in to do a report that will be brought in. There are 2 trees that I'm going to recommend be removed. That one is dead, and the other one is a very dangerous leaning Manitoba maple, which is still probably 30-35 feet away from the corner of the building, but it's still a hazard to the property. Otherwise, there are no trees to be removed. The other was the water recharge, which also will be addressed, just because of the area that we're looking at for coverage. There was a lot severed off from this property probably about 4 or 5 years ago. That what has brought up the percentage of impervious area that has been covered. All right. The existing building has been there for probably about 50 years, and he would like to add on to that. He does collect cars. There will be no work on vehicles going on in the building. He's just an exotic car collector. And I think also drainage will also be addressed as far as where the flow is going to go. From what I can tell at this particular point, there is not going to be any change to the drainage or runoff from the area with that building going in. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public to speak to this application? All right, seeing none, then I will look to the committee for comments or questions. David?
Hi, so I have one question, which will be a combination of condition number 1, bullet point number A, first bullet point, and then condition number 3, second bullet point. Okay. And the question is, I know you said you're going to address the existing drainage, and you're also going to maintain the recharge on site.
Yeah.
How do you plan to do that?
Well, there's already a site If you were to come to the site, you would be able to see actually it's already flat ground with runoff outside of the area where the building wants to be added to the existing. There really isn't anything to change as far as the grading goes. It has natural runoff with the area that it is to the back and both sides already. It's quite a flat area that he's looking at putting this building in. The only one thing we do have to address is the recharge, which is kind of separate from that particular.
So how are you going to maintain recharge on site? How do you plan to do it?
From what I can see, I mean, Ario, as I said, Mr. Koshman was going to come tonight, so I just reviewed this quickly as it was recommended that I would come. We're looking at the possibility of doing a 3/4 clear gravel pit area and have the entire roof area from not only the new structure from the old go into that area. The back portion of this property, about 12 inches under the surface, is a significant amount of sand, so it will take a recharge very easily into that, and that's kind of the plan at this point for dealing with that.
Okay, thank you.
But upon submitting for the application for the permit, we will have that addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Roy?
Mr. Fox answered my questions today. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, great. Tom?
Just for clarification, is this a single-story then structure? Or is
I would
it
class
two?
it as a story and a half. There is probably, I would say, of the entire area, there is a center section that he plans on putting a staircase up to for more storage. Probably would be 50% of the overall area at best.
Okay.
I believe that is on the plan, the preliminary plans anyway.
And that's probably why we're looking at a height issue.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, he wants the height in the lower area, not necessarily up above. He's just utilizing that space, but to match it in with the existing building, they kind of have to deal with that as an overall height, even though the new building is going to be 2 or 3 feet shorter. To get the height inside, he would like to put in 3 lifts so he can store cars on the upper section and on the lower section. With that, he needs ceiling height, right, which is giving him his overall. Trying to keep the roof pitches similar as well.
It looked like from the elevations, that's what
just
he
trying. Yeah, it's building's been there a long time. We're trying to keep the integrity of the look of everything. We did have one of there's 2 neighbors that can see the property. One is his parents. That's where the severance was. There is another one to the east. They did come over and see me at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Had a walk through, took a look at the plans, and they were fine with everything that they were looking at.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have any questions either, so I'll look for a motion.
Through the chair, I move that the 2 applications be approved, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff's report.
Thank you. Second? Tom, thank you. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Okay. And our final application for tonight is a consent application, Banks Murray, 83 George Street. The owner has submitted a consent application 2017-06 to sever the subject lands to create a total of 2 lots. Planning services have no objections subject to conditions. Building services, no comments. Infrastructure and environmental services, no objections subject to conditions. Parks, Recreation and Culture Services, no comments subject to conditions. Central York Fire, no comments received. Electric Utilities in the region of York had no objections. Legal Services had no objections subject to conditions. And Heritage Planning and Building had no objections subject to conditions. Do we have an applicant or agent for this one? Just come forward for a second and identify yourself for us by name. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Jordan Colm of 88 George Street, across the street from 83. I'm looking to purchase the property, so I'm the agent for the applicant, and I'm willing to let it stand on the merit of the information provided.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any members of the public that wish to address this application? All righty then. Then I will look to staff or look to the committee for any comments or questions, either of the agent if appropriate or staff if you have any. Roy, go ahead.
To Justin, is that your important note? Is that usually there, or is important the key word in that, Justin, at the end? Your two comments there.
Yeah, actually, they are generally there. They're just to remind us of timing, that when there's... Yeah, but
yeah, through the chair, I think that's just the standard. That's a standard note in the staff report. It's just for your information. Yeah, it's more for actually staff to keep track of.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that with the conditions, it's a good question, Roy, because I read that a couple times myself. Because there are conditions on this consent, if they have not been fulfilled within 1 year, then our decision is deemed to have been denied. So we approve it with conditions, and if they don't act in 1 year, then it goes to a denial.
And that's typical, so it's not
yes,
just for this.
Yes.
And through the chair, what I do that usually after 6 months, if I've seen no activity on the conditions, I do contact the applicant as a reminder.
Oh, that's excellent as a best practice. Good. And then the second one is the other thing that once the consent is given, if it's not carried out within 2 years, it effectively lapses anyway. So it can't sit there as a conditional approval forever, and that makes sense.
Nice reminder. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. No, not a problem. Any questions, Tom?
Just a comment then to staff. The drawings that were annexed to this showing the severance, severance and the lands to be retained. And I'm assuming that those two building envelopes are just that, showing building envelopes that would respect existing zoning bylaws. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
So just to the I guess the purchaser in effect. So you're aware that you're looking at building envelopes for those properties, and you're okay with what's being shown there? Oh, okay. Yep, thank you.
Yes, this question will be to staff. I've seen in your recommendation or conditions, you have stated to some extent the contents of the letter of undertaking. In your staff's report, this is from the planner, and on the third page, this will be under staff is recommending the owner to enter into a letter of undertaking to ensure the proposed dwellings will maintain the character of the area. So if you look at the last paragraph where you are talking about including a warning clause for future purchase and sale agreement, and you are saying that that will be included. I don't see that being mentioned anywhere in your recommendations, where you have the letter of undertaking.
Marty,
I've seen in other cases you have always put them, whatever comments you have included them in the recommendation conditions. But for this warning clause aspect, you have not included anywhere in your conditions.
Through the chair, the part that you're referencing is the warning clause to all future purchasers that the property is subject to an approved building elevation by the town. What is in the condition for the letter of undertaking? It's not an exhaustive list of everything that would be included in the letter of undertaking. Mm-hmm. It mentions massing height, primary facade, and so on, but that's not necessarily a list of everything that would be included in the letter of undertaking. So the letter would address the warning clause that was referenced in the last paragraph of the section that you mentioned.
Okay. Because I can see the massing and so on that are included in condition number 3, for example. That's the reasoning I was asking, because I would see that aspect was not included in any of the conditions. But I think I'm okay with your answer. Yeah.
Okay, there's no further questions or comments, then I'll ask for a motion.
Just a follow-up comment then. So in effect, through the chair to staff, there is a potential then that it may require a submission to the design review panel. Am I reading that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. It's been left open-ended that it may require further review. That would be something that would be reviewed in more detail when it gets to that point.
Okay. Do I have a motion, Tom?
Through the chair, yes. So I will move that application C 2017-6, 83 George Street, be approved subject to the conditions as listed.
Yeah, and there are 7 of them with sub-bullets. So, okay, do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. That carries. Okay. And that's it for our agenda tonight. So a motion, is there any other new business or questions from committee? Staff, any new business for us? Nope. All right, motion to adjourn, please.
I shall move.
Everybody moves that. Yeah. And I promised my husband I'd say, go Jays.
I'm not sure. Through the chair, I think clerks indicated last week was the deadline for applications, and I think they've received 3 applications. So I guess they'll have to review that and make a choice.